Hello guys, my name is Emilio Arroyo and today I'm going to explain transformations. Before we start, there's some things we need to know. We need to know what is a graph of a function and a rational function. Graph of function. The graph of function is a set of all points whose coordinated x and y satisfy the function y equals to f of x. This means that for each x value there is a corresponding y value which is obtained when we substitute into the expression for f of x. A rational function is a division of two polynomials where the denominator has a degree bigger or equal to 1. You must have a variable in the denominator. This type of function usually have asymptotes and in most of the cases they can be touched. We're going to talk about graphs of basic functions, but we're not going to talk about all of them. The first graph we're going to see is x to the square. This graph has a U-shape and its main points are minus 1, 1, 0, 0, and 1, 1. The second graph is a square root of x. This graph only has two main points and its main points are 0, 0 and 1, 1. The next graph we're going to see is x to the cube. This graph has an S shape and its main points are minus 1, 1, 0, 0 and 1, 1. This graph is 1 over x and is considered a rational function. It has two asymptotes which are x equals to 0 and y equals to 0, and its main points are minus 1, minus 1 and 1, 1. 1 over x to the square is also considered a rational function. This graph also has two asymptotes, which in this case are x equals to 0 and y equals to 0. Its main points are minus 1, 1 and 1, 1. There are several steps we must follow in order to do transformation. The first step is that you need to check if there is a subtraction or an addition inside the parentheses. If there is a subtraction or an addition inside the parentheses, this means that you must move the graph in a horizontal shift. But remember, if it's an addition, you have to move the graph to the left. And if there is a subtraction, you need to move the graph to the right. In the second step, you have to check if there is a negative multiplication outside the parentheses. If there is a negative multiplication outside the parentheses, this means that you will have to do an x-axis mirroring. And in order to do that, you must change the sign to the y coordinate. The third step is that you need to verify if there is a negative x inside the parentheses. If that is the case, this means that you will have to do an y-axis mirroring. And in order to do that, you must change the sign to the x coordinate. The fourth and the last step is that you need to check if there is any addition or subtraction outside the parentheses. If that is the case, this means that you have to do a vertical shift. Remember, if it is an addition, this means you have to move up, and if it is a subtraction, this means you have to move down. But remember guys, you don't have to use all of them every time. There will be some cases when you just have to use one, or you might use only two. Now guys, let's see how much you learned and let's try to do some exercises. Now guys, our first exercise will be f of x equals to 2 minus 1 over x plus 3 to the square. Now let's write down the main points of the graph basic functions. Now let's do the steps. First, we have to see if the function has a addition or a subtraction inside the parentheses. And well, yes, that's the case. Now we have to check if there is a negative x inside the parentheses. And well, in this case there isn't, so we put no in that y-axis mirroring. Now, for that we have to check if there is any subtraction or addition outside the parentheses. And well, yes, that's the case. Now, let's change the coordinates. we have a horizontal shift, so we have to subtract 3 to the x coordinate. Now let's change the sign of the y coordinate, and for last we have to add 2 to the y coordinate. Our final coordinates will be -4, 1 and -2, 1. The asymptote for this function will be x equals to -3 and y equals to 2. So now let's graph it. So now you can see how the graphs transform. Now let's try to do another exercise. Let's try to graph f of x equals to 1 over x plus 4 plus 2. First, we have to see if there is any subtractions or additions inside the parentheses, and well, in this function that's the case. So we will have a horizontal shift, and so it's plus 4, so you have to subtract -4 to the x coordinate, so that means that you will have to move the graph to the left. So now you can see that there is any negative multiplication outside the parentheses, and there is not a negative x inside the parentheses, so that means that there won't be a x-axis mirroring, as well as there won't be a y-axis mirroring. At last we have to see if there is any additional subtractions outside the parentheses, and yes, they are, so that means that you have to move the graph in a vertical shift, and well, it's +2, so that means you have to move the graph 2 up. The final coordinates will be -5, 1 and 3, 3. The asymptote for this function will be x equals to -4 and y equals to 2. Now let's graph it. Now as you can see the graph, you can see how the asymptotes moves and the graph transform. Now let's try to do one more exercise. Let's graph f of x equals to -root square of x minus 2 plus 6. Now what we have to do is, first we have to see if there is any horizontal shift. So yes, there is a -2 inside the parentheses, so that means that you have to add 2 to the x coordinates, and you will have to move your graph to the right. Now let's see if there is any negative multiplication outside the parentheses, and well, in fact there is one, so that means we'll have a x-axis mirroring. So in order to do that, we have to change the sign to the y coordinates. Now, well, you can see there is any negative x inside the parentheses, and for the last we have to see if there is any addition or subtraction outside the parentheses, and in fact there is one. We have +6, so that means that you have to add 6 to the y coordinate, and your graph will move 6 up. Your final coordinates are 2, 6 and 3, 5. Now let's see how the graph of this function looks. Now you can see how the original graph looks like and how it transforms. Thank you very much guys for watching this video, and I hope I was useful, and I hope you like this video. Please share this video with many people.